And now we're here with Pastor Robbie Symons for our daily Bible teaching. You're going to tell us what you have in store for us this week.
Yeah, it's really a real important week. You know, we're looking at the topic of perseverance and specifically the power of perseverance. Such a strong biblical theme. And sometimes I ask, well, why is that? Well, because Jesus knew that every day, probably in reality, we would be tempted to give up. Jesus knew the path would be hard. Jesus knew, he promised that persecutions will come, that trial is inevitable. Greg, this is very close to your heart too, but I'm loving where we are in Revelation chapter 3, the letter to the church in Philadelphia, a small church, a weak church, a little known church, but a blessed church that is called to persevere for the Lord.
You know, I know as I've traveled, and as you mentioned, dear to my heart with the persecuted church, because they've, under stress, they're under persecution, family members have even been killed. Yeah. They need to hear about it, but we do too. So, Robbie, have you ever not felt like giving up?
Yeah, I'd say this, if I wasn't called to what I was doing and I knew that, I would have given up at least 100 times already. And I'm not exaggerating. Like, that's just the reality. The Christian life is one that is not easy. It is not like a bed of roses. Again, it's difficult. That's why in this letter, I love what Jesus says. Jesus says so many statements to this little church. I say little because that's what it says there. He says, I know you have little power. I know you're not impressive, but you hold fast to my word. You keep my name. You love me for my glory, he says. And I am coming soon. I am coming back. And as I say this right now, I know so many of our viewers, they're in a place of hurt and desperation. And honestly, they're trying to decide, can I keep going? And the answer is yes, but only in Jesus Christ. And I need to hear that. We need to hear that. And that's why we're in the air right now, so that our people can hear it as well.
And so we've listed a ton of reasons why you shouldn't become a Christian, right? There's going to be persecution.
Right.
There are going to be trials. Tell people at home why it's worth going through all of this.
Yeah. I love the questions you asked too, Maggie, because that's exactly why this letter was written. Because Jesus says, listen, it's going to be tough. He says, but I'm coming back. He says, I have reserved a place for you in heaven. I will give you a new name. You will be a pillar in my temple, he says. If you don't give up, he says. Yeah, it's just amazing. So he says again, I have loved you. I'm reading right here. He says, I have loved you, and because you have not given up, the glory and the power that will be available to you. So again, we don't live ultimately for now. We're living for what will be, and that's the perspective we must have. Revelation 3, we're going through verses 7 through 13. I'm excited for this week. I can't wait to kind of walk our people through it, and I'm praying the Holy Spirit will use it in a profound way.